So, because it's Halloween this week, I'm gonna do Creatures of the Night book tag, because I will get to the work video that I say that I'm gonna make and then just keep putting off and putting off because I get home and then it immediately gets dark. So, you know, timing is kind of an issue, but I'm so enthusiastic about this that I just cannot wait until a weekend. I've not been home for a weekend for a while. But anyway, straight on to the things. So first book, it's a vampire, which is slightly tricky because it turns out that I have no books featuring vampires as main characters. Well, so all I've got in substitution for that is the Rivers of London series, which briefly mentions vampires as kind of monsters to be killed, essentially. But I'm basically just slotting this in as a recommendation. This is the second in the series where vampires first make a little appearance. But the Rivers of London books are so good. Really, really good. They're like magic realism sort of thing, like detective work. Imagine if the Metropolitan Police secretly had a magic branch that's made up of just one guy, and then this one detective, Peter Grant, sees a ghost and gets kind of initiated into it and has to integrate normal police work with trying to modernise his new tutor's kind of old-fashioned view of magic. There's a great bit where Peter's mixed race and his tutor says something about black magicians, and Peter's just like, you can't call them that. But by like today's standards, I could be considered a black magician. And his tutor's like, well, what are we going to call them then? Ethically challenged practitioners. It's beautiful. It's just such a funny series. Werewolves. Luckily I do have a book that features werewolves. This is Blood and Chocolate. You might have heard of the movie, which is hugely different to the book. The movie's, I guess they took the skeleton of the story, like a really thin skeleton missing most of the bones. So there is, you know, the main character is called Vivian, but in the movie they're in Budapest, and in this they're in America, and it's just better basically on every single level, and I would definitely recommend reading it. It's short and it's sweet and surprisingly more vicious than you would have expected, and she makes in the end the practical rather than the romantic choice, which is something you don't see very often, and I really liked that about this book. Who has books featuring zombies as main characters? They groan and shuffle places. They're not really engaging. So again, in substitution, I've got sort of a zombie. I mean, he is back from the dead. He is a skeleton. I mean, it kind of counts, right? Just about. Skulduggery pleasant. I've embarrassingly only read the first two of this series, but it's been on my list for so long. Basically, I read the first two and then I hit GCSEs, like a freight train. They hit me, more like. But yeah, I just haven't gotten around to reading the others, but as far as I've heard, they've continued to be as excellent as the first two. I read the first one in one sitting, I think, just blasted through it because they're really good and they use like old style mythology and it's just great. Ghosts. Again, not many books that I own feature ghosts as main characters, except Her Fearful Symmetry. Yay! So the main ghost character in this is called Elspeth, and she's the aunt of these two girls, these twins, and she leaves them her apartment in London. The girls are American. And what I really like about this book is the way that ghosts are portrayed. The chapters from Elspeth's, the aunt's point of view, are really, really interesting. Just the way that ghosts work are kind of like disembodied completely, like just kind of clouds of consciousness with, you know, very, you have to practice really hard. They can hijack animals sometimes, but they're very much confined to spaces. I wrote a fan fiction, which I considered putting up for this little slot because I'm trash, which I will link below. I always link my AO3, but I'll link this one below because it's particularly Halloween-y, which kind of used the ghost mechanics of that. The idea that ghosts, at least, you know, little ghosts in the sense of like being young ghosts, not having been ghosts for a long time, like small confined spaces, because like it's easy to slip through things if you're a ghost and fall through things if you're not used to being a ghost. I just really liked those ideas. Elspeth turns out to be kind of mean in a lot of ways, but it's an amazing book. Witch, Warlock, Spellcaster. And for this one, I've got Lirael. I love the Abhorsen series. I love them, and I love all of the characters, especially Sabriel and Lirael, if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I am, but but yeah, Lirael casts several spells, several quite big spells, and the mechanics of magic are kind of really, really intense in these books. But oh my god, if you haven't read these, you need to read these. They're so good, you will blast through them so fast. The world building. The way that the world of the dead is represented, because Lirael, the book before this, the first book in the series, is called Sabriel, and she is the Abhorsen, which is like the opposite of a necromancer. Necromancers bring people back from the dead as kind of unpleasant things, and Abhorsens make sure that things stay dead. And you have like the rivers of death, the gates of death. Oh, it's just such a great concept. This was not in the original list of questions, but I watched Pullman Banana's video and got really enthusiastic, and she included a deities category because she wanted to include Percy Jackson. But also in the Greek pantheon though, I've got gods behaving badly, and Artemis in this is just so great. She's, because you know Artemis is the goddess of like chastity, virginity, being kick-ass, taking no shit, and she loves her dogs. She just, you know, takes her dogs for long walks and is generally pissed off with every single other god, especially her dickwad brother Apollo. It's wonderful. It's a really, really funny book. Okay, fairies. I love fairy books. I literally have an entire, well, half a shelf just for fairy books, but my all-time favourite, the one that probably got me into fairy stories on a kind of young adult book level anyway, is Wicked Lovely. I love this series. I just love it so much. And all the others I have in the kind of fancy, prettier covers that are very kind of swish and pretty, but this one I got in the original, like the one that I borrowed from my friend cover, because it had so much of an impact on me, and I love it, and I love the font and the colours. It was my desktop background for a while, I was that enthusiastic about it. But the characters in this are again really great, and it's got fairy courts, and in the later books it goes into other characters and other courts, and it's just really good. Demon. Obviously Crowley, am I right? Obviously Crowley. If you haven't read Good Omens, again, what are you doing with your life? You should definitely get on that, because it's amazing. It's Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett in the same book, and the style is just, you know, what is that gesture even called? Can anyone tell me that? How do you convey that in writing? Not a clue. And the only reason that Aziraphale isn't the angel is because I wanted to include another book, and because there are angels in this book. Specifically, and it's going to be a joint award, Balthamaz and Barak. I really hope I'm pronouncing those right. I haven't read these books for a long time. In this book it goes into like the war, and there are angels, and those two particular angels will break your heart and leave you shattered on the ground in a cold heap, wailing forever. Okay, up next is the only book that I don't have a physical copy of, because it's Aliens, and you should know this about me. I love the Animorphs series. And I did start collecting the books, but the problem is there are literally over 50 of them, and I have limited shelf space as it is, so I gave away the few that I did own, and I've decided to, you know, buy Kindle copies, essentially, like PDFs and whatnot, because well, that's a lot of books, but they're such a great series. They're kids' books, essentially. I mean, each one's only about that thick, but they are fucking gritty. You don't really realise it at the beginning, but then, you know, it goes on, and it's a bloody guerrilla campaign with lives lost, injury sustained, major trauma for a bunch of children. It's horrible and amazing, and the scope of it is just fucking epic. But yeah, my favourite alien in that is Axe, who is the younger brother of the alien who gave these kids the ability to morph into different animals in the first place. So Axe came looking for his brother and then kind of stayed on Earth and joined the Animorphs. And he is an Andalite. Google it, you'll see. They're cool aliens, is what I'm saying. And Axe is adorable. And Andalites don't have mouths. they absorb their nutrients through their hoofs, and so he tastes things for the first time as a human and he loves them. He's obsessed with cinnamon buns. He'll eat things that, you know, you shouldn't eat, like cigarette butts and dirt and stuff, just because he's amazed at taste, just the sensation of taste. Final book is for Superpowered Human, and we're gonna go with Dane from the, what is this called? The Immortals Quartet. These are, to my shame, the only Tamora Pierce books that I've read, and I know that there are loads of others, and I've seen them, and I've thought I should read those, and everything I've seen of people saying that, you know, all Tamora Pierce books are amazing agrees with that thought of mine. You should read these, and I will, when I have time. But for now, the Immortals Quartet is the only one that I've read, and therefore is very dear to my heart. The only one that I've met? Did I just say that, or read? I guess we'll find out when we edit the video, won't we, Emma? But yeah, she has wild magic, which is very, very rare in this world, which means that she can talk to animals and interact with them in a way that only other animals could, basically. And she's really, really powerful and really, really cool, and this whole universe is super fucking awesome. You should read all of the books that I just recommended, because I am excellent at recommending books. Okay, till next time.